Tonight, it is my pleasure to welcome two good friends of Books Inc., local author Dev Petty and former local author illustrator Ana Aranda, in celebration of their beautiful, fun, and lighthearted picture book about the joys of friendship, Moth and Butterfly. Ta-da! Dev and Ana, happy early book birthday. It comes out tomorrow. It hits shelves. So you've all pre-ordered the book. Welcome, thank you, and I'm gonna pass it on to you.
Cool, well, thank you so much. I guess that I'm going first, and so I'm Dev, and I live in Berkeley and in the Berkeley Hills. So I actually live about 6 blocks from where I grew up, which is pretty odd, and about 5 blocks from where my husband grew up. So we didn't get very far, but it's lovely, and we're very happy to be here. Here we are, ta-da, Moth and Butterfly, which is beautiful. This is my sixth picture book, I think, 7th out in the world, which is very exciting. They're all always exciting. This one is particularly important to me and lovely and means a lot. I used to be a visual effects artist, and I worked on movies such as The Matrix or The Matrices, since I worked on all of them. And I worked for DreamWorks for a while and Warner Brothers and other companies. And then decided after having my kids, I didn't want to work 90-hour weeks. And so decided to start writing, and it went really well. So my first book was I Don't Want to Be a Frog, which is an autobiography. And there have been various other ones. This is The Bear Must Go On. And I really found that this was a fabulous creative outlet. Moth and Butterfly is actually an idea. It was one of my very, very first ideas I ever had. I don't know, Anna, if you know that. I probably wrote my first draft for this in maybe 2013 or something. And at the time, instead of this book being about friendship and life cycles and differences, this book was very much about jealousy and about moth being beautiful and butterfly not being, and how little girls have butterfly earrings and nobody has moth earrings. Anyway, it was a very different book and was very chatty. And then our wonderful editor, Nancy Paulson, who really, really understands picture books so well, she liked this text and helped me simplify it and helped me find just this heart and the sweet part of it about change, and to lean it a little younger toward younger kids, and to just make it really simple and charming. And I'm ever grateful. And that the art is so extraordinary. It's just, my cup runneth over. It is the most beautiful thing. So I'm going to read it in just a moment. But since I don't, in the version I'm sharing, have some of this, I'm going to show it, and then because it's my favorite part. So every book has a book jacket, you know about this. This is the cover. In the inside, you have, I think it's called, right, a paste down or end papers. I should know these things, right? And in this version, this beautiful book, sometimes they're very plain, but in this case, you have these charming little creatures. And in this case, they're at first caterpillars, and later on, at the end, they're butterflies. Likewise, under this jacket, if you have children who eat your books like mine did, you have here this beautiful hardback, and they're caterpillars. And then at the end, they're butterflies. So this book to me is just full of like such beauty and surprises and color and movement. And as I said in an interview recently, I think it's the art is, for lack of a better word, electric. I think it's electric and charming. So I'm going to read it and get off screen because I'm terrifically nervous. No matter how many times you do this, you're still nervous. So I'm going to share the book and then unshare it, and I'll be back and pass it on. This is Moth and Butterfly. Ta-da! Hold on. All right. I'm hoping you can see it. So this is Moth and Butterfly Ta-Da by Dev Petty, illustrated by Ana Aranda, Nancy Paulson Books. And this is the title page, which is likewise so charming, I can't stand it. All right. This is this beautiful opening page. This is written for my sister, dedicated, so for Manya. And Anna wrote, to my mother, the strongest person I know with all of my life. Not gonna cry. Okay. In a corner of the lush green garden, two caterpillars share a leaf. They have a lot in common. And they say, cool moves. Hold on, I have to move this box. I'm so sorry. Many legs, spots. And look, both are champions at chewing leaves into funny shapes. Amazing, ta-da! I'm not sure I'm getting all of the pages. Soon, something important will happen to each of them. I'm actually gonna unpresent this because you're not seeing all of it. So hold on one moment. All right, sorry about that. Soon, something important will happen to each of them. Happy metamorphosis, says a different butterfly. Sorry, this is being very fussy all of a sudden. Ah, hold on, I'm gonna go back to the present. Are you guys all seeing it?
We do have some of the pages cut off.
Yeah.
I can see it. So I don't know if you can scroll through it better, or is it
try.
slowing your computer down? Okay.
I can
Or
try.
you could always pull up the book if that was your original plan too. If you
Okay.
If you want,
it's up to
It's
you.
just a lot of tapping.
Yeah.
And mine isn't very good at that.
if you want, I can also present it from another program. If you want?
Okay. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, let's do that. Okay.
Sorry, everybody.
Let's see. Is everybody seeing this okay?
Looks good right now. I checked the next page because that's when it was getting cut off. That looks good.
Okay, thank you guys. Apologies. All right. We'll
I
start
think-
from the top. It's not a long book, really. In a corner of the lush green garden, two caterpillars share a leaf. They have a lot in common. Many legs, spots, cool moves. And look, both are champions at chewing leaves into funny shapes. Amazing, ta-da, oops. Soon, something important will happen to each of them. Happy metamorphosis. Something amazing is happening in here. A week passes and another. Then pop, there is Butterfly. Then pop again, there is Moth. Wow, they have changed. They have fewer legs now, but they have antennae and wings. Look, Moth, my wings are so bright and mine are so beige. At first, it is almost like before, though now they drink sweet nectar instead of chewing leaves. And look, they can fly. Moth and butterfly together again. But soon they notice other differences. Butterfly is fast and graceful. Moth darts around and bumps into everything. Oops, you okay? Butterfly likes sunshine and standing out. Moth loves shade and blending in. Moth, where are you? right here. Butterfly flies in the daytime and sleeps at night. Moth sleeps in the day and flies at night. He is waking up now. Time to rise and shine, butterfly. But moth, it's almost bedtime. Some things are different, but some are the same. Cool moves. Moth and butterfly both smile when they spy two young caterpillars sharing a leaf. They know important things are about to happen. Happy metamorphosis. And then this is a little bit of sort of nature back matter, hoping that as I think this book will find its way into kindergarten and preschool classes where teachers are reading and raising butterflies. So it says, you probably know that moths and butterflies have lots in common. They both go through metamorphosis, the process that turns them from a caterpillar into an amazing winged insect. But there are easy ways to spot the differences after metamorphosis. Butterflies are usually brightly colored and have thin antennae with club-shaped tips. Moths have duller colors and feathery antennae. Another big difference between the two is that butterflies are diurnal, meaning active in the daytime, and moths are nocturnal, meaning they're busy during the night. So go ahead and take a careful look at those flying creatures. Is it a moth or a butterfly? Either way, they are both pretty grand, aren't they? The end. So there we are. And I don't know if the camera's on me or not, but I'll just talk for just a minute. Hopefully you can hear me and everything. So that's Moth and Butterfly, which, as I said, became a much more simple, charming, and I think a great book, especially I wrote a piece recently about this, but we've all been through so much change. And I thought a lot about how we metamorphosize and we come out on the other side and we're different and we're coming out on the other side of something and having to adjust to new things, to new wings. And everything I've read about going through this process for these creatures, I mean, it's extraordinary. They're practically liquefied and reorganized into a new creature. And these two friends could never have known that they were going to be different. They just became friends as they were because they shared things and they really liked each other. And so for me, this is so about coming out on the other side, changed, but still intact and whole and part of something, and still with friendships that are all the more important. So I suppose that's the end of my spiel. I love this book so much, and I'm honored to have worked with Ana on it and this team, and it was just like the stellar experience so far. So that's it. Thank you.
Yay. I just want to say that I am so excited to be here, and it's been such an honor working with Deb because I'm such a big fan of her work and her books. So this is such a treat for me to work with Deb and illustrate her beautiful words. So for me, the process, as Deb was saying, right, it's been, there's been a lot of changes in this year and in general, all the process for me, how I lived this book, there were a lot of changes, all things happening in life, and the characters, they came with me during different times of life, and I lived them in different ways. Some parts of the book, so you'll see that it takes place in this lush garden, right in this house. So when I was thinking about that, I was thinking of places where I spend a lot of time in. And for example, this is inspired in a house in New Orleans. So I spent a good time in New Orleans and I love the architecture, and I would go in the streets biking and just take pictures of houses that I liked. So this is one of those houses, and it's also inspired in all this green, and the flowers is inspired in the town where I spent the beginning of my childhood in Cuernavaca. So anyone who's watching from Mexico, gracias por estar aquí. Bienvenidos. Thanks everyone for being here. Oh, and I guess I should introduce myself. I always forget that part now. So my name is Ana Aranda. I illustrated this book, and there's other books that I've illustrated that I really like too, like the Chupacabra, the Candelabra, and our Celebración. Um, but working in this book has been just such a treat, because not only the story is beautiful and it's very meaningful to me, but just the whole process of doing it, it was very meaningful to me as well. So from figuring out the characters, like what do they look like, who they are, and what makes them different and alike too. And also playing with the technique, right? Because I wanted it to be very colorful, very green, but I also, for every book I do, I try to add a little element of play. So before I started the finals, I was playing in the idea of maybe adding flowers, or maybe adding, I don't know, something from nature. And then I did actually add some food in some of the spreads. So you'll see in this page, there's like a lot of texture. There's like, I don't know, maybe it's hard to see, but there's like the colors change a lot, and there's like a lot of explosions. And so what I did in this painting is that I used lime to paint in it. And so lime kind of, I didn't know what to expect. It could go really wrong, but it didn't. And it made really cool textures, and it kind of gave another life to the image. And the same thing with this one. So I sometimes add like lime or lime juice or orange juice, or even like spice to some of my paintings. So this was no exception. It was really fun to do, and just to explore something new and figure out what the story is by adding an element of play. I think that's it. I wanted to share also a little bit of drawing with you guys. So I wanted to show you how I do some of the characters. So how about we can start with, who should we start with, Moth or Butterfly?
Moth.
Moth. Moth is so much fun. Okay, so Moth, it has, let's see. It all starts with geometric shapes. So Moth is actually like an inverse triangle with two triangles as wings. And one thing that I really loved about Moth is that it's like very hairy, but it also looks, it's some kind of hairy, but maybe it looks too a little bit like a flower. And I did want to add like as many flower elements as possible in this book. I wanted to do this reference to Cuernavaca, to all these beautiful, because Cuernavaca it's a city close to Mexico City where I spent the first years of my life, and it's also called the city of eternal springtime, right? So all year long there's flowers, colors, it's beautiful. So this is kind of a little homage to that beautiful childhood and colors that have inspired me so much in my work. And so even though Moth is not as colorful as Butterfly, it also has a lot of flower elements like the antennae, and also here it has these marks over here that are also, I was thinking of them as flowers too, or eyes. And here too, it is, this character is very hairy, and I love that because it creates a really cool silhouette. And of course has all the arms, a lot of arms, a lot of different things to play with. So that is Moth. Yeah. And I'm gonna do Butterfly now. But I'm gonna do Butterfly maybe with different colors. So I'll start with the body. Not this one. Butterfly is a little bit more round. So it follows more like these eyes, kind of eyes or like circles. And so when you think about butterflies, they're also like these very magnificent creatures with big wings. And so I wanted to show that too. And also to have it have some elements similar to moth, like maybe these kind of flowers or eyes. And the arms as well, like very tiny arms and legs. So now you can draw your moth or butterfly at home. And I hope you guys enjoyed it.
That's so much fun. That was lots of fun. Do you guys have more to talk about each other? I just jumped on because there was silence, so I was gonna get on. That was a lovely reading, and I'm so excited about those drawings. People in the chat are all saying that they're going to draw their own, and they're loving it. So you've got lots of love throughout the reading and throughout the drawing. I do have a couple questions for you of my own to allow other people to get over to the Q&A box because we kind of jumped on it. So surprise, time to submit your questions. Ana, you mentioned, because it's the freshest in my mind, that you do use food in your paintings. How did you come across that technique? Is it something, like you said, it's play, so is it something that you created yourself, or is it something you learned?
I actually started doing it in the Chupacabra book because it's a book that talks about food in a way. And so I thought my play for that book would be to use food. But then it keeps coming back because you can make so many cool like textures and things with food. So I wanted to include it here too, especially for those two spreads where it's like an explosion and it's like very, I don't know, it needed like an extra element of like big. So I think it's something that's, it will still appear in my books, I think.
Yeah, they're beautiful. It's definitely a book you should pick up in person and see the beautiful pages in print. Do you have prints of the pages? Do either of you have like the original?
I have the originals, but the thing about using food is that it is not archival, meaning like it doesn't last. So because lime, it doesn't react well to sun, those originals are no longer what you see like here printed. So they will be here the same color forever, but the original paintings will not.
Interesting. That's really interesting. I did see we had a question pop up in the chat. I missed who this is from. Sorry about that. But first, they love the story. And then their question is, with multiple exclamation points. And the question is, how long did it take you to write it once you came up with the concept, Dev?
Well, as I said, I started writing this so long ago, but it was in different incarnations. It was so different when I first did it. Once I really started simplifying it and rewrote it, I'd say it really only took a couple weeks. I tend to think a lot more than I write. So I will sit and I will, I'll often be found on the deck by my family and they'll say, "Oh, are you writing?" Yeah, I'm writing. Because I just think a lot, and it tends to be that then when my book comes out of my head, it's mostly done. I don't do a lot of editing. So probably just was a couple weeks, but Nancy is also a very strong editor. And so she helped a great deal in this, getting this concept into this form. Just a couple weeks though.
That's good. Wow, that's good. And what's the process like for the two of you working together? I know from listening to other authors and illustrators talk about it that sometimes it's very separate. But you mentioned in our pre-event chatting that you have met each other. Was that before or after you wrote the book, or you created the book together?
That was after. I don't think we actually interacted that much, apart from just going to your gorgeous studio that you had, and we bought some prints which are up in our kitchen, and I don't think we actually had that much back and forth really about the book. I had total faith. I love Chupacabra, and I had total faith this was going to just be fantastic and great. And in any case, it tends to be with picture books that you're not that much back and forth with each other. Sometimes you might see sketches or something, but not often. So for me, I was like just delighted to have the surprise of this. It was fabulous.
That's good. Very nice.
I'm glad
Okay,
you
we have
liked
more
it.
questions coming in. This one is from Susie. Do each of you relate more to one of the characters than the other? So it's for both of you.
Anna?
That's a good question because, and I actually thought about that before, like, am I moth or am I butterfly? But I think there's a little bit of each in me. It would be hard to choose just one, but maybe I'm clumsy as moth, but I like the colors of butterfly.
Yeah, very bright.
I would say, well, hi, Susie, by the way, who's one of my, I'm guessing it's my Susie, who's one of my oldest friends, best friends in the world. I would have to say moth, probably, because at least in the writing of it, I always felt a little connected. I'm by nature, in case you can't tell, always a little uncomfortable. So moth to me seemed a little unsure of himself. So I guess I related to that, but they're both so charming, and I just adore them. And I love that we get to see them in 2 different forms, really 4 different forms. It's just so, it's so neat. I love them both so much.
They're very beautiful. All right, I see more. So I'm going to read the ones. I do see the question in the Q&A box, but the chat disappears much faster. So I'm going to ask a couple questions that are in the chat. But if you remember, please ask your questions to the authors in the Q&A box so they're easier to find for me and I don't miss them. This one is from Balcazar. My apologies if I mispronounce your names. And it is, I think it's for Deb. Because the question is, did you realize that the illustrations would be as beautiful as they are?
Like I said, I loved Chupacabra, so I had a decent suspicion. But the truth is that you never really know. And that it's like, it's such a gift just to be able to write picture books as a job and have my ideas turn into these things that help kids grow and read and connect with things. So honestly, it's always good. It's not always spectacular and beautiful like this is, but it's always a good experience to put books out in the world.
That's a good answer.
And I'm always very nervous if the author likes it. I'm like, I need to honor your word. So I'm glad you liked it, Deb, because it means a lot to me because your work is so awesome. So
The love fest. That's always nice.
I know.
Authors and illustrators are excited to work with each other. You can tell in the work for sure, and in the events. I have another good question from I think it's Paisley, not quite Paisley, but this is for Anna. Is watercolor the only media you use for your illustrations, and how do you play around with new media?
That's a good question because I actually started doing more like some of the first books that I did, they were more like screen, how do you say that? Like scratchboard. They were like very complicated, took very long time to do. And then I started using watercolor because I wanted something more like immediate and more spontaneous. So that's why I even like throw food in it, like I just wanted to have an element of just spontaneous and like immediate and just like the feeling there. So I like that with watercolor, and then the details, I like to do them with gouache because I think it's very nice. Like the details, you can do them very like flowy with gouache. And then I sometimes add like those very concentrated inks to like enhance the color. But it's all traditional, like scanned. It's all like that.
Yeah. Very nice. All right, and this one's for Dev, and it's from Marky. Dev, you write animal characters so well. Do you ever get pushback from editors about using animal characters, or are they pretty open to using them as long as they're unique?
Well, hi, Marky. I don't tend to get pushback. I'm sure that if I wrote a human character that had charm and oomph and all that, I think everybody would support that. It just hasn't really happened yet. And I think I'm straight through for all my next books that I have coming out with non-human characters. So I'm sure everybody would welcome it if I did it. It just hasn't happened. But as an aside, I will mention that definitely running out of animals without getting sort of too esoteric, about things and nerdy about the animals. I'm literally running out of animals that I'm connected with and interested in writing. So I may have to just resort to humans or start doubling back or something.
Revisiting past
Visiting.
characters. Yes.
Right. We'll go back to like new frogs or something. Frogs.
Yeah. Different colored frogs. There are hundreds of or thousands probably of species of frogs.
Right.
And the good thing about picture books is that people love animals in picture books. It's like probably the most accepting of the genres of the age groups of animal characters, closely followed by middle grade novels. Let me see. I see more notifications in the chat, but I did see a question that I don't want to miss from Forrest. Forrest is asking, did you consult other people's feedback while you were working on the book? If so, could you talk about the extent?
Well, hi, Forrest. He's my daughter's teacher, who's a fabulous, extraordinary teacher, and I'm honored that he's here. Super honored. So yes, I absolutely, I wouldn't say consulted, but I work with a number of critique partners and they're really helpful. So I don't really have a critique group per se, but I have a handful of trusted voices, I would say, who read things and give me feedback and help me make it stronger. Ultimately, I'd say my agent and the editor played the biggest role in this case, but I also share it with my husband, who's a really, really great judge of this kind of stuff, and certain friends, and my father, who was very supportive of this one and who I trust immensely. So I have a little chorus of people I listen to, and you can't listen to everybody. So now, I think I just signed a deal for my 10th picture book. Now I know who to listen to more and more, which voices are strongest. Otherwise it can get very muddy and confusing. It's a good question.
It is. Ana, do you have people that you go to for your art?
Yeah, I think the same. Like there's a handful of people that I'm working on something and I've been staring at it too long and I feel like this is not right and I just can't see it. So I have to share it with someone, or I worry maybe, I don't know, even something silly like I missed a hand or I missed, like sometimes you see it too much, you don't realize those things. So I just, there's a handful of friends and colleagues that I like. When I used to share a studio with other illustrators, I would show them and like just have that extra input. It's always very helpful in my family too. And does this look weird? Please tell me, am I drawing something really bad?
That's funny. Yeah, we ask the authors a lot about what happens when they get writer's block. I never really thought about like an illustrator like coming up against a wall in their art. Is there something that you do apart from getting other eyes on it? Is there something that you do to kind of get yourself out of a rut or find, what's missing? If you don't have that person to lean on or come look at this.
Just take a step back and go for a walk and, do other things that, will take me away from that, and then see it with fresh eyes. I think it's always good. Go interact with the world. I mean, call a friend or family, and then once a breath is back in and everything is calm, then I have fresh eyes to see it again.
Yep. Always look away. Yeah. Take your eyes off of it. That helps with a lot of things these days. Yeah. So we do have a couple of questions. One is from Elaine, and hers was partly answered in a previous question. It's about animals. Elaine said, both of you often have animals in your books. Do you consider yourselves animal lovers? Do your next books have animals? Deb, we know part of your answer to that. Are you an animal lover?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we have in this house just roaming around 2 dogs and a cat and a snake named Boots. It's a menagerie. So yeah, I think animals are interesting, and writing about them gives a little bit of distance somehow, for me at least as a writer. But yeah, I guess my next book I have coming out is called How Old Is Mr Tortoise? And so yeah, like a lot of animals, really, a lot of animals. Yeah, I'm an animal lover, sure. Totally.
Ana, do you have pets?
I wish I did. I'm so jealous that I wish I had pets too. But I did, while I was working in Moth and Butterfly, one of my roommates had a cat, and it's actually, I hid it in some spreads. So we're here. His official name was Homie, but we call him Juan Camilo. And so he's in some of the spreads. And yeah, I love animals. And some of my next books, they do have animals hidden in some parts too.
What's your dream pet? If you could have a pet, what would you have?
I think a Dachshund dog.
A dog. Cute. Yeah, they're very cute. It would be, I just imagine you drawing them all day, every day. They would be your muse.
I would, yeah.
I would love to see you draw a dachshund. One of your books. One of your books. Put that in there. All right, let me see. We have another question for Deb. This one is from Christy. Deb, I would love to hear a little about your path to publication, since we are celebrating the 10th, the signing of the 10th book. That's what you said.
I am. I just did that. You know, I had an uncommon path, and I sometimes loathe talking about this at panels when there's authors who, you know, this was like their life's dream. This is a dream, absolutely, but it's one that happened really fast for me. So yeah, as I said, I was in film, and I was working 80, 90-hour weeks as a painter and texture painter. And I had kids, and I didn't want to do that. So I was teaching and freelancing, and I just didn't want to do that anymore. And I quit without really a plan. And almost to the day, I got a bite on a book I'd sent out. So I had just started, I'd never really written a lot apart from poli-sci classes in college. And I started writing some stuff. And it turned out it was picture books. And it was probably just because I was reading a lot of picture books at the time. And I just really enjoyed it. It was very similar to making movies, actually. I may not do the art, but it definitely informs how I tell a story being in film. So I sent out a number of queries when I probably ought not to have, because it was just total hubris. But I got an agent, and I got a deal really fast. And it was for I Don't Want to Be a Frog. And it was a really popular book. Which was very surprising and confusing, and I didn't know what to do. But I learned fast and found my voice along the way. And more than anything, for people, I counsel and consult with a lot of writers who want to become picture book authors. And my main advice is always just to write a ton. You know, just write all the time, write 30 books, and then see if you found your voice. It's kind of just that simple and complicated. Thank you for the question.
We do have, oops, sorry, I'm looking at multiple boxes. Elaine and Pasley have both asked Ana to answer the same question on the illustrator side. So what was it like for you coming to book publishing?
Well, I guess I always knew that I wanted to be an artist, but I never quite knew what kind of artist I wanted to be. And so I started going to graphic design school in Mexico. And when I was there, I discovered the work of Sean Tan that some of you guys may know. I remember seeing his books and thinking like it really struck me. And I thought it was just the most beautiful thing I've seen. And I realized that I always wanted to do art that many people could see. And I imagined, as a kid, I imagined myself maybe as a muralist, because my parents would take me to see murals and, this beautiful tradition we have in Mexico. And I thought, wow, like one day I want to do that. And I wanted many people to see what I do. And I wanted to be in a place where everyone can have access to. But then with books, I realized that I preferred books because everybody can have a book even for free at a library, right? So everyone can have access to this piece of art, and you can have it in your home. You can own like art, and it can also travel many places and live forever. Books live forever. So I decided I wanted to be an illustrator and do kids' books, just as Shantan. And so I continued my path, and I went to France for a little bit in a little town, and then I got a scholarship to do some studies here in the US. And then when I was in France, I applied to this contest that I didn't get, but the people from the contest called me back and gave me my first book deal that it was for a publisher in Italy. That's this one. And so I'll show you what I was saying about very complicated work, because this is the kind of work that I used to do.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like, it's all scratchboard and it takes very long time to do. And so that's, that kind of stuff I used to do. And now I do very different stuff, but, and then I started there. And then when I came to the US, it's where I found, I studied more and wanted to get better at my skills, because everyone was so good in France. I had to like really catch up. And I found my agent here, and I found my publisher, and it kind of went really, it's just something that I never imagined would actually, happen. And when it did, it's just like a dream.
That's great. Love those stories, both of them. The biggest advice we always get from authors is to get an agent. That's kind of like, that's the best place to start. Work on your craft and find an agent, to sum it up. But I love those stories from both of you. Let's just make sure I'm not getting any other questions in the chat. I don't see any. Oh. So this one is also from Paisley, and I'm not sure who it's directed to. I'm gonna guess, but I'm not entirely sure. It says, are you interested in writing a book and being the illustrator for your own book as well someday?
That's such a good and common question I get. Interested in, sure. Likely to do, no. But I think it was to Ana.
Yes.
For me, nobody wants to see that. I know.
I would love to, Deb. That would be awesome. Please.
I know just enough to be dangerous. It's okay. Ana, how about you?
The question was if I want to write and illustrate. Of course. I'm actually working in a book that I'm also writing that's about the Day of the Dead. So that will come out next year with our same publisher. Awesome, Nancy. So super excited about this book.
So it's on the way. Keep an eye out on shelves. Shelves near you. All right. Do we have any more audience questions? I think I've caught up with the chat and the Q&A. So I don't have any more from them. And I feel like I had a question in my mind to ask you just in case to stall, and I've lost it since. It's usually a general question about working together. So was it always, like I said, oh, we got a question. Okay. I was going to do a long build up to remind myself. This is from Marky. Thank you, Marky, for the save. For both of you, who are your child literature inspirations or kid lit inspirations?
Well, I have a lot now. I don't know if it's childhood ones that I loved as a child or love now. I'm a huge Remy Charlotte fan, who a lot of people don't know, but it's just weird and wonderful and bizarre. Big Shantan fan. In fact, his book, Eric, was one of the reasons I even wanted to bother, and the Lost thing. One of the reasons I even wanted to bother with this was the hopes that someday I could do something like that. So Mac Barnett for sure, a really, really nice guy who's been helpful to me and kind and dear. And then I love, like, I'm a big fan of like 1970s picture books, really weird, offbeat, bizarre 60s, 70s, love it. Very Berkeley, I guess. So yeah, I'd say those are for me. And just in case we run out of time or something, I just don't want to forget to say thanks to all these people for coming and supporting this, and listening to probably the number of times I complain about publishing or writer's block or whatever it is. I'm sure I'm a pain. So I'm just super, super grateful about it. It's really, really cool to be coming out on the other side with this book, coming out of our little chrysalises. It's really awesome.
Yeah, hit shelves tomorrow. Ana, do you want to do a shout out to anyone other than Shantan?
I'm so glad that you said Eric and the last thing, because I think Eric for me is also like, wow, it's really one of my favorite books, and The Arrival too. And then I'm going to start listing all of Shantan's books, but no. I think other influences maybe, I guess like Beatriz Alemania, like there's a lot of these, I like this very like poetic like sense of play that some illustrators have. I'm kind of blanking out, I'm really sorry, but I would say yes, like beautiful picture books that incorporate like fantasy and joy, and bring joy to the world. I love, and also like Shantan that
Forrest is asking you to repeat your recommendation, the name. I think he heard Teresa. They heard Teresa. Did you mention a Teresa? Ana?
Oh, me, Teresa?
Yes. Yeah,
Oh.
Did you mention a Teresa? Yeah, they were asked, sorry to interrupt you. They were asking for a repeat on the names of your inspiration. There must be writing them down very quickly.
So it's Beatriz Alemania. I think it's Beatrice Alemagna. I don't know if I'm, so it writes like that. And yes, I think those are some of my inspirations. And then again, as that said, I wanted to thank you all for coming here so much and for supporting us. And Dev, congratulations on your 10th book deal. That is so awesome. Something to celebrate big. And I'm so happy to be here with you guys. And thanks, BookSync, for having us, of course.
Thank you. No, thank you for always being excited to do events with BookSync. I mean, this is not our first time hosting either of you. I think we've hosted, Ana, I know we've hosted you at least twice. And Dev, 10 times? Are we on 10? Are we almost 8 or 9 times? Yeah. Yeah, it's been a wonderful adventure for us all. I did see that we had one question snuck in. So before we do our goodbyes, we'll ask one question, but thank you for your thank yous. And I lost it. There we go. Okay, for both of you, what, let me see, sorry. Was there anything that you found positive from the pandemic? I guess, what did you take away? Was there anything positive during your time in the pandemic for your writing and drawing specific?
Deb, do you want to go first?
Okay.
Everybody's thinking anytime.
Sure. Yes, I would say yes. I think it's really hard, and it's been really hard to be creative because it's felt a lot more like we're concerned with what we do and how we do it and how we do it safely than who we are and what we think and what we feel. At the same time, it created a lot of time for me and my family to be together and share space, and it's been an interesting sort of mixed blessing, I would say. And I think if nothing else, it certainly made me ever grateful for my career and that I have a career where I get to do this. But it gave me time, and really, finding your voice takes time, and publishing always feels sort of like watching paint dry. It feels like everything takes forever, and you just refresh your email and you just want more news. And it definitely slowed the whole pace down, and for me, put the focus back on being creative and realizing that nobody was really buying a whole lot of books anyway. So whether I finished today or tomorrow didn't matter. as long as I got it done eventually. So I think it kind of slowed me down a little in a really good way. It's a good question. Thank you.
Good. Ana?
I think, yeah, the pandemic made like all of this all more important, I think, to me. Like, I always found whenever I'm painting, it's like my happy place, and it's like I have this bubble, and then, you know, whatever is happening around, it's there, you know, and this is this. So it kind of gave me this space to be present and to just enjoy like this beautiful thing that we were doing. And like the pandemic hit while we were working on this book. So I think this, I think I already said this to them, but I'm also thankful to her that I had this book to be like, you know, immersed in, and like put that have that creative outlet for just doing something beautiful that I felt was very meaningful at that time. And that also, you know, with all life things happening like this, this became all more important to me, like having this place of like play and joy, and hopefully sharing that with other people.
Those are great answers and great question. And I'm glad that it was a positive aspect, a positive question on that one, because it is hard sometimes. But thank you. Thank you so much, Dev and Ana, for tonight's event. You're getting lots of love in the chat for this book, and we're so excited to be doing a pre-launch. Again, the book hits shelves tomorrow, so you can go into your local store wherever you are. Hopefully it'll be there for you. If you are local to the Books Inc. or to the Bay Area where Books Inc. is, we are doing a stock signing with Dev later this week. And if you purchased a book through Eventbrite, your book will be signed. And we will ship those out this week. And also Ana sent us some signed book plates, and there's a special sticker set with limited supply. So we're gonna kind of stuff your books full of exciting things before we ship them out. So we are going to be delayed a little bit. You won't get your book tomorrow unless you walk into a store, and I can't guarantee that it's gonna be signed tomorrow either, because Dev's hasn't signed them yet. So be patient on that end. And if you haven't purchased your book and you would like to do so on our website, we do ship to US and Canada. And after Dev signs her books, we can ship them out for you. Just use our special coupon code called, it's just Books Inc. Events, one word, and you'll get the special event 15% coupon. And it's a big red flag to our web order team that you want a signed copy. To triple check that you get a signed copy, you can put that in the comment section as well. And we will supply those as long as we have them. We may have to have Dev come back and do a second stock signing, depending on how much love this book gets right off the bat. But it's definitely one that I know teachers are gonna love. So in the fall, we'll be pushing it out of book fair programs, and hopefully can do some story times. And again, thank you everyone for coming out. Look for an email through Eventbrite with all that information that I just threw at you now. I'll send it in written so you can click on links and things like that. But thank you again so much for being out here, for coming out tonight, or showing up, tonight, tuning in. And Dev, Ana, thank you so much. Congratulations. And I will say goodbye and end it.
Thank you for having us.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you, guys. Bye.